The Wind by Dorothy Scarborough. Prologue. The wind was the cause of it all. The sand too had a share in it, and human beings were involved, but the wind was the primal force, and but for it, the whole series of events would not have happened. It took place in West Texas, years and years ago, before the great ranges had begun to be cut up into farms and plowed and planted to crops, when there was nothing to break the sweep of the wind across the treeless prairies, when the sand blew in blinding fury across the plains, or lay in mocking waves that never broke on any howsoever distant beach, or piled in mounds that fickle gusts removed almost as soon as they were erected, when for endless miles there seemed nothing but wind and sand and empty, far-off sky. But perhaps you do not understand the winds of West Texas, and even if you knew them as they are now, that would mean little, for today they are not as they used to be. Civilization has changed them, has tamed them, as the vaqueros and the cowboys changed and gentled the wild horses that roamed the prairies long ago. Civilization has taken from them something of their fiery elemental force, has humbled their spirit. Man, by building houses here and there upon the plains, by stretching fences, by planting trees, has broken the sweep of the wind. By ploughing the land into farms where green things grow, has lessened its power to hurl the sand in fury across the wide and empty plains. Man has encroached on the domain of the winds, and gradually, very gradually, is conquering them. But long ago it was different. The winds were wild and free, and they were more powerful than human beings. Among the wild horses of the plains there would be now and then one fleet and strong and cunning that could never be trapped by man, that had never felt the control of bridle, the sting of spur, a stallion that raced over the prairies at will, uncaptured and uncapturable, one with supernatural force and speed, so that no pursuer could even come up with him, so cunning that no device could ever snare him, a being of diabolic wisdom. One could hear his wild neighing in the night as he sped over the plains. One could fancy he saw his mane flying back, his hoofs striking fire even from the yielding sand, a satanic horse, for whom no man would ever be the match. Some thought him a ghost horse, imperishable. But now his shrill neighing is heard no more on the prairies by night, for man has driven him out. He has fled to other prairies, vast and fenceless, where man has not intruded, and now one knows him only in legend. So the Norther was a wild stallion that raced over the plains, mighty in power, cruel in spirit, more to be feared than man. One could hear his terrible neighings in the night, and fancy one saw him sweeping over the plains, with his imperious mane flying backward, and his fiery hoofs ready to trample one down. In the old days, the winds were the enemies of women. Did they hate them? Because they saw in them the symbols of that civilization which might gradually lessen their own power? Because it was for women that men would build houses as once they made dugouts, would increase their herds, would turn the unfenced pastures into farms, furrowing the land that had never known touch of plough since time began, stealing the sand from the winds? The winds were cruel to women that came under their tyranny. They were at them ceaselessly, buffeting them with icy blasts in winter, burning them with hot breath in summer, parching their skins and roughening their hair, and trying to wear down their nerves by attrition, and drive them away. And the sand was the weapon of the winds. It stung the face like bits of glass, it blinded the eyes, it seeped into the houses through closed windows and doors, and through every crack and crevice, so that it might make the beds harsh to lie on, might make the food gritty to taste, the air stifling to breathe. It piled in drifts against any fence or obstruction, as deep as snow after a northern blizzard. How could a frail, sensitive woman fight the wind? How oppose a wild, shouting voice that never let her know the peace of silence, a resistless force that was at her all the day, a naked, unbodied wind, like a ghost more terrible because invisible, that wailed to her across waste places in the night, calling to her like a demon lover? End of prologue.